Adelante, Orlando, por favor.
Perfecto. Buenos días. Mi nombre es Orlando Quispe Gutiérrez. Voy a ser el moderador. Les damos la bienvenida al sexto taller de investigación aplicada de la gestión 2023. Invitamos al magíster Josué Cortés Arabia, investigador, líder en política social en la Fundación ARU, a dar las palabras de apertura del evento. Adelante, por favor.
Muchas gracias por la introducción, Orlando. Quiero extender un saludo a todos los que están viendo la transmisión. Agradecemos su presencia para este taller. Vamos a exponer el documento Reciprocity and Communal Governance, Evidence from Aymara Water Associations in the Bolivian Altiplano. En este caso nos va a exponer el investigador Wannes y Slosse, y también veo que está Jean-Paul como coautor. El doctor Morales va a ser de comentarista, y bueno, la doctora Van der Ley como directora del ISEC, igual le extendemos un saludo. Estos talleres de investigación aplicada son un espacio académico de discusión teórica, metodológica y práctica que se lleva a cabo ya desde el año 2011 en Bolivia. Estos talleres tienen como objetivo incrementar la investigación aplicada en el país, brindando a los investigadores la oportunidad de presentar sus investigaciones y recibir comentarios de otros investigadores. Entonces, estos días se consolidan como una valiosa oportunidad para mejorar la calidad de la investigación que se haya realizado, fruto de la retroalimentación que reciban hoy. La relevancia del tema de investigación que hoy día vamos a ver es muy interesante porque aporta a la literatura de gobernanza recursos naturales y pone en diálogo dos enfoques que son contrapuestos: el enfoque de la tragedia de los comunes, que todos sabemos que, bueno, hay agentes que no están cooperando entre sí, terminamos con un bien común que va a ser sobreexplotado, y el de Ostrom, ¿no? El de Eleanor Ostrom, que presenta una serie de casos en las que las personas efectivamente pueden organizarse y cooperar para asegurar la provisión de un bien público. Además, este enfoque que usan los autores de economía experimental le da la posibilidad a uno de entender de forma empírica quizás los mecanismos relacionados a este tema de la reciprocidad y confianza que se necesita para una gobernanza efectiva de un recurso hídrico. Y este tema es súper importante igual en Bolivia porque tiene una relevancia particular, puesto que, por ejemplo, nosotros tenemos una historia de estrés hídrico y departamentos como Cochabamba, por ejemplo, ha tenido que organizarse las personas de manera privada, digamos, cooperando y con todo lo que nos van a exponer los autores para sacar adelante y dotar a sus comunidades de recurso hídrico. Y bueno, sin más dilación, quiero dar por iniciado el sexto día de la gestión 2023 e invitar a la exposición del autor.
Muchas gracias, estimado Josué. En esta oportunidad, la exposición estará a cargo de Wannes Slosse. Él es investigador interdisciplinario, cuyo trabajo se enfoca en la economía institucional y experimental aplicada a comunidades rurales del sur global. Tiene una maestría en ciencias en economía, una maestría en artes en historia y una licenciatura en artes en historia de la Universidad de Gante, Bélgica. Actualmente es candidato doctoral en ingeniería de biociencias y economía en la misma universidad. Es necesario resaltar que esta investigación fue desarrollada en el marco del proyecto CREA de la UCB, en el que participaron como coautores investigadores de la UCB como el doctor Jean-Paul Benavides y el doctor Boris Braniza, quienes se encuentran aquí presentes en la sala. Damos la bienvenida ahora al investigador Wannes Slosse. Adelante, por favor.
Thank you so much for the introduction and also for the invitation to be here today. Just yesterday, I started the second level of Spanish classes here at the university in Belgium. So I can speak just a little bit and understand it perfectly, but I hope you agree that I continue in English today. Let me just share my PowerPoint presentation with you. There we go. So, as mentioned, I would love to explain my research to you today, which we call Reciprocity and Communal Governance, evidence from the Aymara water associations in the Bolivian Altiplano. So, as you might know, communal governance is a system where people or communities try and do govern together, usually some common good. In this case, we are talking about water, so some resource that is limited, where people try to decide together on the distribution and utilization of it. We started with this research because we expected that these associations were to some extent not functioning perfectly because of trust issues. So we wanted to examine the economic behavior of trust. But in the end, we ended up with reciprocity as our main focus of behavior. So reciprocity, you can hear response, respuesta in there. It is a type of behavior which is the response to the behavior of another. So this can be positive. When someone is friendly to you or does you a favor, you can decide to return a favor. But it can also be negative, like take vengeance on someone who has wronged you. So I would like to give you some background first. First of all, like why am I here? Talking to an audience who most of you probably know a lot more about the Bolivian setting than I do. So as mentioned, I'm a PhD student at the Department of Agricultural Economics in Ghent, here in Belgium. And I have a background in history and economics. I started off looking at the contemporary impact of Belgian colonialism on the agricultural sector in the former Belgian colonies, and most importantly on how this has impacted farmer cooperation today. And to do so, we make use of the subdivision of the field of economics, experimental economics. So where I joined in, it was when there was a talk between Dr. Jean-Paul, who is here today, and my promoter, Professor Marijke. It is said that probably in these Aymara associations, these water associations, there were some trust issues, and they were asking themselves, could there be some experimental evidence for this? And that's where I stepped in, because I had done some of these experiments in other countries before. So last year in June, I went to La Paz and we organized some of these experiments. Most importantly, we organized a trust game, which is an economic game, of course, to measure the economic behavior of trust. So first of all, what is this experimental economics? This all started from the important idea in economics of the Homo economicus, the economic man, the idea on which still the most important macroeconomic models and so on are based, that people behave rational, that they are perfectly informed, that they behave individualistic, that they always try to maximize their profit and so on. But the movement came up who said, yeah, of course we realize that this is not the case, at least not always the case. We can be altruistic, we can decide to share with each other, be friendly, we might try to cooperate, people have other risk preferences and so on. So in the 80s, you get this rise of experimental economics, where researchers have tried to play games with people. Games, as in, like you would play a game with your friends, you usually have to make decisions. Decisions which you base on certain preferences or ideas about what might happen. But in the end, the outcomes are uncertain because you might depend on the actions of other people, but also purely on chance. Now, in experimental economics, these games are usually organized with monetary incentives. And on this picture there, you can see how we spent hours cutting out fake sides of 5 Bolivianos. We played these games with real money. At the start of the game, we gave people 60 Bolivianos, real money, and we told them, okay, this money is yours, and we will now do an experiment in which you can make decisions which could either increase or decrease your total payoff. An example of such games, a very easy one, which we also played, is a dictator game. We gave people 60 Bolivianos and told them, look, this money is yours, you can do with it as you want, but we offered you the opportunity to send part of this money away. Someone else who is here today taking part in an experiment, who will not know that this money comes from you, and you will also not know who this person is, you can send him part of the 60 Bolivianos, any part from 0 to 60. These kind of games started mainly in the 80s and became very widespread. At a certain point, about 20 years ago, there was this guy, Joseph Heinrich, who said, okay, we have now done thousands of these games, but usually, most of the time, we always do them with a sample who is very easily accessible to us. And those are university students at US and European universities. And he said we have done very big, we have made very big conclusions out of this about human psychology, economic behavior. There's people that are always in Western countries, they are educated, they live in industrialized, rich, democratic countries. And he said, actually, these people, they are actually behaving really weird. And from him came two important strands of research. That's on the right, looking into this weird behavior of these educated, more rich samples. But he was also, he still is a very important front runner in doing this experimental economics with non-weird people. They have published a very important book where, for example, they did this kind of games with talking about Bolivia, specifically with Tsimane and the Bailey departments. They have done this with hunter-gatherers in Tanzania, with indigenous communities in Papua New Guinea, and so on. And it's in that strand of research that I am trying to write a PhD. So more specifically, the games we played with the Aymara people. That's one, this dictator game that I explained to you. So we have a player one who received 60 Bolivianos. We told this person, okay, look, this money is yours now. You can decide to send part of it, ranging from 0 to 60 Bolivianos, to some second player. This player will not know who you are. You will not know who this player is. It's just someone here at the session today. But the rational thing, the Homo economicus thing, would be to give nothing. So I think you can all imagine if we would play this game today here, you might actually be inclined to at least send something away and does not behave perfectly rationally. But then two, the most important game which we played during this field work was a trust game. The people were divided into two groups, players one and players two. Players one, they again received 60 Bolivianos. We told them this money is yours. You can make some decisions with it, which could either increase or decrease this amount of 60. We told them you can send any part of this money, so ranging from 0 to 60 Bolivianos, to a player two. That's someone of the people here today. This person will not know who you are, you will not know who this person is. But the amount you send to that person, we will triple it. So person one has 60 Bolivianos. If person one decides to send 20 times 3, that second player will have 60 in the end. The second players, they received his money. We told them, look, this is sent to you by some other player. We have tripled it. Now you can, but you're not obliged to, send part of it back to this first person. So we have a group one, we have a group two, and we actually measure two types of behavior. The first groups, the one who have to make this first move of sending money away, they have to exhibit trust. Trust that the other person who will receive a triple amount of money would be willing to send them back, to reward them for being friendly towards them. Then back to this reciprocity, answering someone else's behavior. In the second group, we are measuring this positive reciprocity. So answering correctly to a favor done upon to you. Which is the background of this research. Most importantly now, let's go back to the paper at hand. So we looked at the role of this trust and this reciprocity within the communal governance of these water associations. So the region where we did this is the municipalities of Batallas and Puchalani. So the region between La Paz and Lake Titicaca. So we have water flowing from the tops of the Andes towards the lake via natural rivers and man-made canals. And within this region, we have 4 water associations governed collectively by the Aymara communities and 54 Aymara communities. Now, when I was there, the researchers were talking a lot about this Solidaridad Aymara. And indeed, the Aymara people, they have a large capacity and a long history of collective action. collective action, which is mainly rooted in resistance against government forces and a movement away towards the region they are living today. So initially we would expect, if these people have a large capacity for collective action, that this communal governance might function very well. Yet, our research started from the observation that these associations were facing a lot of challenges. The canals were drying up. People were mainly relying on rainwater for their agricultural practices. There was the observation of conflicts between and within associations and communities. The overexploitation of the ones that are upstream, a very classic problem in the communal governance of water flowing down, of course, and in general, mismanagement. So we wondered why are we seeing this? And there is a large body of research which have already examined this, but mainly looked at external challenges. So the expansion of an extractivist system, draining away all the rainwater, climate change, and so on. But we wondered mainly about potential internal challenges. On the right here, you can see a graph, research who studied trust between trust in several countries all over the world. And you see on the horizontal axis internal trust. So this is trusting people that you know, people from your own vicinity, like your family or neighbors or friends. On the y-axis, the vertical one, we have external trust. So trusting people that you don't know, strangers, police, the government. And Bolivia in general over there is usually found to be at the low end of both of these trust measures. Second important observation is that for these Aymara people then, not specifically Bolivia, they have indeed this high capacity of collective action, but it's mainly rooted in a kind of negative reciprocity, rooted in resistance against external forces that made them cling together. Now, with these two observations, like mentioned, we went to Eleanor Ostrom, and she actually won the Nobel Prize for their groundbreaking research on communal governance, which in its very essence boils down to the framework we see over there. We have individuals who learn and who adapt their norms and who are being shaped by the context that they live in. So we talk about the Aymara and the Aymara farmers, specifically and for this research and this the setting that shapes their high negative reciprocity, their capacity for collective action. Now, if these people enter into communal governance, they follow this cycle. In the first stage, these people have to exhibit trust, make some move which is costly to them in the beginning, and the hope that the others will reciprocate, that they will answer accordingly. If this goes well, levels of cooperation can start to rise. If cooperation rises, your communal governance works, and the benefits of the governance system can increase. And this should be a vicious cycle, a positive cycle of trust building within such a community. We started the idea from the issues we saw that there was something going wrong over there in that arrow, that there was something not being translated into sufficient trust levels. Yet in the end of our research, we arrived at this arrow. And we think that although trust might be an issue, that the actual main issue might lie in reciprocity. Reciprocity, as shown by research, is actually this arrow. It is the link translating trust into cooperation. You can actually see it as a conditional cooperation. It's a first move in cooperating. If someone, the initial mover, does a trust move, it has to be answered the first time, reciprocally, to get this cooperation going. Importantly, is that research shows that in that case we are talking about positive reciprocity. Thus, the answering of favors, the answering of, for example, a trust move. On the other hand, other research has shown that while there is a positive relation between trust and positive reciprocity, there is also a negative relation between negative reciprocity within communities and trust. And actually, very important, this negative relation is stronger, which was the first indication of the issues we could be seeing here. So what did we do? We gathered 100 Aymara Water Association members. We did a pre-survey gathering some socio-economic data. Then we did the experimental economics, the trust game and the dictator game I mentioned. I will recap it shortly after this. And then we did some post-survey on their experiences with the water associations. So to recap very shortly, we did two games. One was a dictator game. So everyone, all the 100 Aymara, they got 60 Bolivianos each. And we told them anonymously, so no one could hear what they did. You can send part of this away. You're not obliged. You can send part of it ranging from 0 to 60 to someone else here today. Someone else of these 100 people. They will not know who you are. You will not know them. This gave us a variable for altruism. So actually non-rational behavior according to the Homo economicus theory, that people decide to be friendly without expecting a reward for it. Then the second game, the important one, was a trust game, where we got two variables. For the first players, we got a variable for trust. For the second players, we got a variable for positive reciprocity. So short recap, the first players then got 60 Bolivianos. They could send part of it to an anonymous second player. The part of their 60 they sent to the other one was tripled by us. And in the second phase, the second players who got the tripled amount of money could decide to send part of it back. So 100 people played these games. So we have 50 players one and we have 50 players two. First, some descriptive results. I don't know if there are any people here today who are familiar with this kind of games, but for the dictator game, so for the altruism variable, we found that the 100 Aymaras, on average, they sent 38% of their 60 Bolivianos to someone else. Now, if we compare this to other research on this game worldwide, this is not crazy, but it is on the higher side. Usually, we would expect means of about 20 to 30%. So this is actually quite a high number. If we then look at the trust game, there we see that on average, the first players, they send away half, 50% of the 60 Bolivianos, which was rather surprising to us because we started this research with the idea that it would be trust that was the main issue, but then you see 50%, which is actually very, very normal compared to other trust games done worldwide. But then we saw that the answer of the second players, so the positive reciprocity, that this was really low. This was only 50%. So the tripled amount these second players got, they only send about 20% back. Then if you do some very simple regressions, looking at this behavior of the second players, so on this positive reciprocity, we actually found little to none factors that were influencing this amount that these people send back. So here in the fourth column, you see the relation between the amount the second players got and the part they sent back. But of course, you would expect if people are getting more, if they are being trusted more, that they would send more back. But there was almost no relation at all between these two variables. Let me skip these are kind of business checks. Let me arrive at the main models. So on the right here, you see again this Ostrom framework. We have used our variables gathered by the games from the socio-economic survey to make a path analysis, path diagram. So for those who are not familiar with this, path analysis is a system of equations who are estimated at the same time, where the dependent variable of one of their equations is allowed to be an explanatory variable, and another one. So for example, here you see the loop in bold. We use trust to explain cooperation, but we also use cooperation to explain the benefits, use the benefits to explain trust, and so on. So actually, using this method, we can estimate a cycle of events happening. And we estimated 3 of these part models. 3 because in the trust game, we have 2 groups. We have the first players and we have the second players. So we made a first model with these first players. And there, the trust variable was their game behavior. So their first move, their trusting move in the game. Cooperation for these people was a survey question. On a scale of 1 to 7, to what extent do you think cooperation is important for your community? The second model was estimated with the data from the second players. For them, we had no data on trust because they only had to answer the other move. Their trust is a survey question. Also on a scale of 1 to 7, to what extent do you think that trust is important for the functioning of the community? For them, cooperation was their game behavior. So we use positive reciprocity for that link in the chain. The third model was then kind of a control model where we estimated it for all 100 people at once, and we only used to do survey questions. Benefits in all 3 models was a categorical variable on a scale of 0 to 10, which was the sum of the self-assessment on the quality and quantity of water that people were receiving from the membership of the water associations. Now, I will go over these 3 models with you. How does this work? You see these figures over here. When you see numbers, it means that the relation between the 2 variables is significant. So with the first players, the one who had to show trust in the trust game, we can see that if they were more trusting in the game, that and the survey, they also said that they attach more value to cooperation. They thought cooperation to be more important in their community. Yet, the ones who attach more value to cooperation, this did not have any relation with benefits from other association membership. On the other hand, those who said that they experience more benefits from the association membership, they also showed to be more trusting in the game. So you see actually that for this model, there's in the Ostrom framework something going wrong in the link between cooperation and benefits. Second players, so the one who had to show reciprocity, there we saw that there was no relation between how trusting they said they were and the reciprocal behavior in the game. The reciprocal behavior in the game was also not related to benefits they reported to have from the association. As I've shown before, when we tried to look at what was explaining low levels of positive reciprocity, we found very little factors being correlated. Yet again, also for this group, the ones who said to experience more benefits from the association also thought themselves to be more trusting. Then using only the survey questions, we arrived at the same conclusion. The ones who said they were more trusting also said they attach more value to cooperation. Again, we didn't find a link between valuing cooperation and benefits from the association, but again, experiencing more benefits from the association, these people also thought themselves to be more trusting. So, analyzing our data, we arrived at this circle that over there. We arrived at the idea that something was going wrong in the translation from trust to cooperation. And we saw that indeed, trust did increase the value that people attach to cooperation, but being more trusting and also being trusted by another did not seem to increase the positive reciprocity, this conditional cooperation. The benefits from the association seemed only to be impacted, which kind of makes sense, by in fact receiving water from the irrigation, and then to a lesser degree depending on which association you were part of, with one of the 4 associations performing a bit worse than the other. And we did find that people who report on more benefits from the association showed to be more trusting. So in the end, we found that trust alone was not sufficient to get this positive cycle of cooperation going. And two, we have started to think about this long tradition of negative reciprocity with these people. And especially the fact that the strong capacity, the long history of collective action is mainly rooted in this history of negative reciprocity, of this resistance to external forces. So in conclusion, we have tried to look at this role of reciprocity in these communal governance systems and found that trust has to be answered by positive reciprocity. So a type of conditional cooperation to get higher levels of cooperation going, which we think is challenging when this negative reciprocity is so dominant. This negative reciprocity, which other researchers have proved, has a stronger and inverse relation to within community trust. With then the observation that these Aymara farmers, they indeed have the succession of collective action, but rooted in this negative kind of reciprocity. So in the end, we think that building trust is not sufficient. And then if you want to look at how we can tackle the observed challenges for this water association, that we will also have to focus on positive reciprocity, which is also the point where I get a bit stuck. How can you promote something like positive reciprocity if we assume that this long tradition of collective action rooted in negative reciprocity took decades, even centuries to form? How can we arrive at something else, hopefully in a time span of less than centuries? With which I would like to thank you for being here today, for your attention. I would love to answer any questions, and I'm looking forward to the commentaries provided. Thanks.
Agradecemos a Wannes Slosse por su exposición. Antes de continuar, les invitamos a todos los participantes a que vayan dejando sus consultas y comentarios en el chat de Zoom, ya que luego de la participación del expositor y comentarista se abrirá un espacio para que los autores puedan responderlas de acuerdo al orden en que hayan llegado. También les pedimos que mantengan sus cámaras y micrófonos apagados.
So for our English-speaking participants, please, if you have any question or comments, please write them in the Zoom chat. Following the presentations, the authors will address them in the order received. We also kindly remind you to keep your cameras and microphones off during the presentations.
Para comentar el documento, hemos invitado a Joaquín Morales. Él es doctor en Economía por la Universidad de Namur, tiene maestrías de la Economics School of Louvain y de la Toulouse School of Economics. Sus intereses tratan sobre la modelación microeconómica aplicada a problemas de desarrollo, en particular sobre la cooperación al desarrollo y los mercados informales. Actualmente dirige el Centro de Investigaciones Económicas y Empresariales de la Universidad Privada Boliviana. Damos la bienvenida al doctor Joaquín Morales. Adelante, por favor.
Muchas gracias por la invitación, estoy muy honrado. Quiero agradecer a Liseca, a Aru, a la Hans Tidel y obviamente a mis amigos de la Católica por la invitación. Me parece una muy linda oportunidad de estar dialogando entre nuestros centros de investigación. Quiero preguntar si prefieren que haga esto en inglés o en español.
Sí, en inglés, por favor, para Wannes.
Excelente. So let me just share. Oh, sorry, I'm showing things that I shouldn't show. Okay, there we go. Wannes, so very nice to meet you. It's always nice to find a fellow Belgian. So we are compatriots, well, half compatriots because I'm half Bolivian. So this is going to be interesting. I'm just having some issues sharing this. I wish I could share exactly the full screen and not just part of my screen. Let me do something a little bit clever. That's fine, I guess. Right. So I had a lot of interest reading your paper. I found it very interesting. I have a bunch of questions and comments that I want to make to you, and also maybe to justify a little bit why I'm qualified. I don't know if qualified, but at least if I have something interesting to say, is that we did an experiment with also Aymara population, but urban Aymara population in the city. And some things will be similar and some things will be different. So it's always interesting for comparison. So I know I have a lot of time for comments. So I even make a little summary of what I'm going to tell you today. I'm going to summarize the paper, which is always useful to know what we're talking about. And then I'll try to help providing some comments on things that I think are worth exploring for enriching the paper. Some things that I worry a little bit more. So I'm more of a economist, so I'm part of the boring crowd, and so probably I have some technical concerns. And then I think there's a few bibliographic references that could be useful for the paper. So let's say the main point of, I guess, the main point of the paper of how I understood it is that, well, you played both a trust and a dictator game. Well, actually, the order is different, first a dictator and a trust game. And I think this is going to be important among members of 4 water management association in Batallas and Bucarani, right? So there's 100 of them. And you show in this model, so this path modeling sequencing, the correlation between trustworthiness, what you call in the paper positive reciprocity, altruism, and self-reported valuation of different things like cooperation, trust, and satisfaction with the association. And I think one of the main points is that a lot of these people are unsatisfied with their association and they're having issues making it work, right? So this correlates that you find are compared with Elinor Olmstrom's self-governing common pool resources framework. So the idea is, let's see if this matches the framework of Olmstrom. And you conclude, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but that basically positive reciprocity as measured by the reimbursement in the trust game is low. So you don't find really intrinsic motivation to reciprocate when someone is being altruistic, and that this is surprising given that we have this idea that maybe indigenous communities in the Altiplano tend to be, to have high levels of reciprocity, or at least what you call negative reciprocity. Basically, collective action organizes if I have some form of external threat, right? Threats either from government, from encroachment, maybe from other communities. You even mentioned privatization and these things, and so we have this idea of, the big social struggles of the Aymara people and collectivization, and or at least collective action, and as opposed to that, you find that intrinsic motivation is relatively low. There's a few things that I think need to be addressed, or at least I think would be useful to enrich the paper. First, I think institutional backgrounds, I think, could be much richer for the following reason. First, you say that, well, in the 70s, so the government and international cooperation were, building these canals for distribution. And then it's like, okay, now community is going to take care of the canals, and government is absent, and now it's all communal management. And I think this has to be a little bit nuanced. So the Bolivian government, not only this one, but previous Bolivian governments, and not only this political party, have taken a lot of interest in water management. So you have what was called Planes Nacionales de Riego, Planes Nacionales de Cuencas. So I think it's worth exploring a lot of, boring administrative documents, normatives, and laws, but you have a lot of that. And I think it's very important because you can have a clearer idea there of what is meant by communal management in the context. And I think something we would like to learn. So even if I work a little bit on development stuff and comparison and things like this, the subject of water in itself is not something that I know a lot. And so on the subject of water, I think it would be very interesting to have a very, extensive description of this management system, right? How do you choose your authorities? Who is the Secretario de Aguas? What is the deal with these guys? If they really want to do this job, if there's some tensions to grab the job, or if actually it's almost like a punishment to take care of this because you have some responsibilities towards the community. So all this could be super interesting to know. On the justification of negative reciprocity, one of the arguments that you make in the paper is that negative reciprocity emerges in these communities by opposition to external forces. And in particular, you talk about privatization and you talk about, big corporations working on water, which is true in the Bolivian political economy history. But I think this is very true in urban context. This was true in Cochabamba, this was true in El Alto. And I'm not completely sure that private companies are very interested in this in the rural areas. So this, at least I think, would require some justification. My impression is rather that no one really wants to take care of this thing, right? And this is why it's delegated to the communities. And so I'm not completely sure. So you have obviously pressure for other things, right? So you have a long history of resistance and worrying about natural gas and worrying about taxes and worrying about things like this. But I think that the water setting is more appropriate for maybe other contexts, in particular urban context, right? And so I think thinking and describing governance within associations would be very enriching, because we would like to know if people actually care about this. Really, they want to manage the water management association or not. One of the reasons is basically that opportunity costs rise a lot. So basically, maybe I want to work in the city. So Batallas is what, 1 hour, 1.5 hours removed from the city, from the center of El Alto, is not far away. So probably a lot of these guys work, at least partially work in the city. Which means that maybe they drive a minibus, or maybe they work in the market, or who knows. And so taking care of the responsibility of managing the association can be a drag and can be very annoying. And as opportunities increase in the city, the opportunity cost of managing the association increases a lot, right? And so what I know, and I'm gonna cite the references, is a lot of the time, I don't really want to manage the association. It's really a drag and it's really annoying, but the community is going to pressure me to provide the service. So the cargo communal, and cargo communal is a responsibility that I will have to take to prevent the community to remove the land from me, right? So I inherited a piece of land. Probably land is very divided because land was distributed in the 50s. And now 4 or 5 generations after, you have little pieces of land. You want to keep as little land as you have, mostly for your retirement purposes. And so that means that actually I don't really want to work that much in that association, but I have pressure to do so, right? Another issue that I think is very important, and I didn't see in the paper, and I think it's worth mentioning, is elite capture. And elite capture is this phenomenon where a few guys within the community are gonna take care of the association, and they're gonna take maybe some benefits from it, but I don't know if governance is as democratic as we would like to think it is. So I think this is worth exploring, right? Because it makes me think that, we have like this, it could be very idealized idea that communities really are, trustful, and you show that they're not, at least in your version of the game. And one of the things that can happen is I don't really trust as much my water community management, because the guys that are in charge of the water community management they don't include me in the meetings and in the decisions, and anyway they spend most of the time in the city doing something else, and so I'm not sure that they're going to manage a lot, and I'm not completely sure if good management of water associations is completely correlated with trust in that sense. And And I'm a little bit worried about the conclusion that reciprocity is only negative within these communities, because I think you have a lot of other examples where reciprocity actually works pretty well. One example is Aini, right? So working and building a house of someone else, this is well documented, and then you show that actually there's reciprocity, at least in that dimension. And in some studies that we did among merchants in Bolivia, we showed that channels of reciprocity within group, right? This is true. It's within group reciprocity are quite strong. So maybe there's something else that is wrong with the water associations, that is not only trust. Maybe trust plays a part on that, or at least reciprocity plays a part of that, but I don't think it's the whole story, right? And maybe I think you have maybe a story about, you know, institutional drift. So you have these associations that were created in the 70s, and probably the idea of these associations being still useful, you know, 60 years after is not really very realistic, given that the country has changed a lot in the meanwhile. On the technical part, there's a few things I wanted to mention. So I missed a lot of things. So again, I'm an economist by training, so I missed this kind of stuffs. I wanted to see some descriptive statistics. So who are we talking about? What do we know about these guys? What's their age? What's their income? Whatever. And I wanted to see the equation. So you have these nice diagrams where you explain the relationships, but it's always a little bit, you know, comforting to see what's the math inside of this. I would recommend to do this. And there's a few variables that I didn't find the definition. Maybe I didn't read the paper sufficiently well, but you have variables that are called, you know, economic comparison or cooperative category, that I think COP category as if you belong to other cooperatives, but it was not really clear from the paper. More to the point, or maybe more specific and more importantly, on the thing of the games, and it's good that Jean-Paul told me that we're going to go back to the field. If I understood, this is a one-shot game, right? You play once, maybe you have a training round. And we know in particular that in this context, you can have issues with one-shots because you're never completely sure if people understood the rules of the game. And this could be useful, you know, to have at least a few rounds, to repeat some rounds, which I know it's boring, but it's usually, you know, it's quite standard in this literature to see if actually people know what they're doing. Moreover, if you're first playing the dictator game and then the trust game, and if it's a one shot at each case, I worry that people will confuse the rules of one game and the other and end up playing the trust game as if they were playing a dictator game, which could explain the relatively low levels of reciprocity, because in the first game, the rule was that I don't give you anything back. And then now in the second game, I have to give you something back, but maybe I didn't really get it. So I get that you had, you know, people that were native speaking in Aymara, and that all this was very well explained. But if you're going to do this again, I would recommend to have at least a few rounds so that you're sure that people understand what they're doing. Another problem or another issue that I think is quite important is that due to your sample size, it's possible that you're not detecting effects. Obviously, the game has been done already, so you cannot change that now. But what you can do is some power computations to see if there's an effect, if you can detect this. And I think this is important because, so we did trust games, we did it with urban dwellers, most of them Aymara, not all of them. And in our setting, which was repeated, we actually saw that people understood very well the idea that if you trust more in me, I will reciprocate more. And we do find a very strong correlation in our settings. So I worry that this is a problem of sample size instead of not having, maybe sample size, maybe understanding the game, some of these issues can be present. Just another point is that you mentioned that, you know, you started your chat saying that, you know, if agents are purely egoistic and rational, and the Homo economicus, who's a horrible guy, is playing this game, he's not going to cooperate, and that you need trust and altruism to and reciprocity to have this thing working to get into the cooperative equilibrium. But this is not completely true, because you can have a cooperative equilibrium in sequential games, in repeated games. And given that you have an association, you have a repeated game. It's not a one shot. You're interacting with these people in several periods in the future. So Folk theorem, which is purely, you know, purely utility maximization based, tells you that you can have cooperation emerging, provided that your opportunity costs are low enough, that the benefits of cooperation are high enough, that you don't discount the future that much. So I don't think you need to model this, but I think it's worth mentioning that you could have cooperation without the need of reciprocity. Probably reciprocity and trust and all these things play a role, but they are not the only things that play a role. And so I think my main issue, and what makes me a little bit nervous, and maybe we need to, it's something that needs to be addressed a bit more, is this idea that, you know, the conclusion is that you have strong negative reciprocity among these communities, basically on the justification coming mostly from the sociological literature, I suppose, that you know, history shown that you have a long story of resistance and cooperation against an external enemy. But I really worry that this is a little bit strong as an assumption, as I don't know if it really shows that, you know, what is actually going on in your story is that we think that they cooperate a lot only if they have an enemy, and they don't cooperate if they have to trust each other. I think we should, if you are going back to the field at some point, it would be nice to have some measure of this negative reciprocity, and probably you can make a game, right? So actually in our game, the bastards were us, right? We were the enemy of the players, and this was a good motivator for people to cooperate, and it actually works quite well. So it's possible that your story is right, but I think it would be good to substantiate this a little bit more. So some things I think would be interesting to see. First, normative framework in Bolivia. I think this is super important to see. So you have a lot of laws, you have a lot of plans. So actually the government was very, very active in these policies. Then I would recommend localizing development by Ghazala Mansouri and Vinashesh Rao on local development and decentralization of development, and basically community-based development, and the ideas and issues that you can have when community has to foster development. I think this is a nice reference to have. Also, obviously, Mancur, also, you probably have heard about this if you're talking about cooperation, but I think it's interesting to see, no, right, to understand if the logic of the collective action is only due to these external forces, and why collective action would fail in the context that you're seeing. And the other, this is a friend of mine, and actually another compatriot, which is Anne Michel's. So she did her thesis in Namur on Bolivia. And one of the things that she sees on her document is this idea that actually the management, all this collective action or management of collective resources is mostly something imposed by the community, that's something that people want to take out. That indeed, if you don't follow these collective action rules, you have a high risk of losing your land. And so it's a drag, really. I have to do this community service, and it's very annoying that I have pressure from the community to do it. And this may explain why this can be very dysfunctional. So I have to take care of the water association management, but it's a pain in the ass for me, so I will do it. So obviously, if you're thinking about institutional economics, maybe think at some point about the design of this institution to understand if this institution is relevant today, and maybe think, okay, what amendments can we do? What improvements could we do to this institution so it becomes a little bit more functional? And with this, I finish my comments.
Agradecemos al doctor Joaquín Morales por los valiosos comentarios, y abrimos el espacio para que Wannes Slosse pueda responder a los comentarios o quizás añadir algunos detalles más. Adelante, por favor, Wannes.
Thank you, Joaquín, for your comments, presentation. Yeah, the main thing which I can say to is that I'm I'm happy with it because you're in large lines, your worries are the same that I had actually. And a lot of them, of course, come from the fact that this was a research that we planned on very short notice and on a small scale. Where, for example, the fact that indeed these were one-shot games with very simple designs is indeed a major point, which, because the games are so simple and because we had a small sample, it's not easy to make large predictions and large conclusions out of this. So indeed, in the future, we plan to take this up a notch. Because one small disagreement is that I think in the setting that we played it, the one-shot trust game, it is the Nash equilibrium, not the trust. But in what you are very right, and which I fully agree, is that if we change the design of the game, it more replicates the real setting which we want to investigate. But indeed, the main point, according to me, is that we have no measure of negative reciprocity, and that for this we base ourselves a lot in the literature that is there. Looking at my notes for a moment. Yeah, for this also a term, the negative reciprocity, which might be stronger in urban context. I must admit that I'm not very familiar with the urban context in that regard, but indeed that it might be very well true that privatization and this kind of issue is more of an issue in that context. If you are talking about a rural context, it might be more important in regard of negative reciprocity is the longer term, actually the longer history, like the fact that these communities are farming in the Altiplano is because they were pushed here. It's not fully their own choice to practice agriculture there. It's a process of centuries. So you're right, if we are talking about one, is this negative reciprocity there, and two, where does it come from in this rural context? We must maybe be looking more at those kind of processes than purely at this privatization and so on. So yeah, so once again, a big thank you, and I would like to look at my co-authors here today if they have some remarks on the.
Yes, thank you, Wannes. Yeah, Joaquín, thank you very much for those comments and that you have been reading the paper, I guess, very in detail. And I really appreciate what you have commented now to us. So I will not come back to the more responses that Wannes said before. And I mean, fully agree. You know, we knew that our sample was small, and that we intend to address that problem, and we are going to discuss also if we can add or change something about the games. So that's a very that's on our plate of work. But I would like to go back to the first part of your intervention, and indeed there is I'm not sure if I will cover all the interesting and very important points that you reach, but I will try. First, about this legislation framework. Indeed, there is a lot in that regard. But Evo Morales, in that last period, this government has changed significantly the context. So now, by law, those communities have to be in charge of the systems, and I guess this is a very interesting thing that is happening now, and is what we are going doing research also now, because we could have this long history of water management in the region that was not really included in the law, was really done under the traditional practices and by the communal organizations, which one person was in charge of the water thing. Now things are changing, slowly changing because of the government intervention. Now there's another association built to manage the water infrastructure or the water resources. So that's a very big detail, and I completely agree that we have to improve that description on the paper, because when is the traditional way of managing the water, just one secretary in the communal organization, then this is the long history of negative reciprocity in play. But when is the association completely different of the traditional management of the whole life of people there, then the incentives, the institutions change completely. So then it comes to your comments about, okay, the opportunity cost of taking charge of. Now in the new associations, there is a big problem of opportunity cost. But when it was the traditional method, then the people who were more in charge of cattle and agriculture, those were the water judges. Those were the people in charge of the water, and they were doing because they were there all the time. So we met recently two people who both had more than 8 years of having this role in the community. So it was not costly. They were paying off. I mean, they were having the benefits, the benefits of their work for the whole community and for them. So that's but that we are really working on that. So another really important point you reached was how to demonstrate this negative reciprocity, and that we have to work on that. I can now, by description of how these institutions are working, argue about. But indeed, it will be nice to try to have more, more data or more ways to show the existence of this reciprocity, negative reciprocity in the community. I don't know if I cover all your remarks, but elite capture. For sure, we can have some examples of that. We didn't really look at even if I was aware about the phenomenon, but we didn't. I have the feeling that in the transition of the managing the water systems now happening in this region, things are changing. So they are not the same elite managing the water, that's for sure. Much more women have been included by the law, by the design to those management. Maybe last point. You have said that privatization and private enterprises to those regions are not, there is not existing that phenomenon like in Cochabamba. That's urban. In Cochabamba was not really urban. Was also peri-urban. Was the rural in the frontier of the urban thing. So in this particular case of batallas, it may be not private enterprises, but the state. The state has developed a multi-year program to bring in water from those associations to La Paz and El Alto. And that's causing a lot of problems there, a lot of change in the water management systems. Okay, I hope that I answer a little bit what you have you said.
No,
I
I think it's super enriching, because I think that's what's worth putting on the paper, right? Understanding that context, and this gives a lot of lights, as well as, you know, what is going on with these associations, where they come from, what's the relation with the state. And even, you know, you mentioned a few of these guys are for 10 or 15 years. Maybe this is not really good. And mostly, and a question that emerges now is if there's some political intervention in the associations, if there's a way of putting, you know, people from the political party in charge of these things to, you know, expand political power to the region. That may be worth exploring too.
Yeah, in general terms, like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I was completely agreed that being the leader of the community in an association of the traditional community was, as you say, pain in the ass, was so costly to the people. And so they were obligated to fulfill that role. Now it's completely different. Now it's completely different because being one of those leaders, it means that you can reach political posts and more secure resources, financial resources. And so it changed, and especially on those regions who are 5 Bolivianos away from La Paz. So that's a transformation that we are seeing. And so the next steps of our research are going very deep into this, how those traditional system management are changing in the moment. So yeah.
That was super interesting.
Yeah.
Muchas gracias, estimado doctor. Antes de continuar, queremos solicitarles, por favor, que puedan llenar el formulario de evaluación del taller de investigación aplicada en el enlace que se encuentra en el chat de la sala del Zoom, ya que sus comentarios son importantes para la constante mejoría de los talleres. A continuación, se abre el espacio para preguntas abiertas del público. Se va a leer las preguntas en el orden que nos lleguen en la caja de comentarios. En este momento no tenemos algunas preguntas en la caja de comentarios, pero si quieren acotar algo, si los participantes desean acotar algo, pueden levantar la mano con el botón que se encuentra en la parte inferior de la ventana de participantes, o que activen su micrófono para poder hablar. Adelante, por favor. Bueno, mientras... ahí hay una pregunta. Por favor, acá está, la voy a leer. Wannes, it is a pleasure to have been able... Carlos, ¿tú lo lees?
Sí, I can read it. Wannes, it is a pleasure to have been able to collaborate with you on this work last year, and also have listened to your presentation. It's from Marco Nina. I have 2 questions I would like to share with you. First, do you think that the choice of money as an incentive mechanism for the work has an influence for the results you found? And second, how do you think the results might vary if we consider other types of incentives, for example, food, coupons, or something like that? It was nice to see you from afar, and wish you all the best.
Carlos. Hey, Marco. Yeah, happy to hear from you, even if it's from the chat. Yeah, thanks for your question. It's actually, if we're talking about experimental economics, the whole incentive discussion is a very, very big discussion with a lot of people who think it is absolutely necessary, and also a lot of people who think that actually, if you do not give incentives, that people might be behaving the same. Personally, I think that playing with monetary incentives, so talking about your first question of a reasonable size, that it is the most easy way to be certain that you get honest answers, honest economic behavior. provided, then also going to the commentaries of Joaquín, provided that people understand the rules of the game very well. If you want to be certain that it's necessary, you would have to replicate the game, of course, in the exact same settings without money. Second question then, if you took other types of incentives, this is a very interesting one. I don't have the answer, but we have actually considered this, not for Bolivia, but I have done some of these games in Burundi, and there we were thinking actually to use food, and this has been done by other researchers before. Especially, this is especially useful if you do this kind of methods, organize this with people who live in very isolated communities, who are of course known with money, but who do not use it on an everyday basis. Over there, we were working with people who had to walk very far to markets, and they use money, but to a lesser extent than the Aymara people. So I think in our case, it would have been interesting, but money is always, of course, the easy option, as you have. Yeah, it's easy to write down, it's easy to work with. But yeah, it's an interesting option to explore, at least. Don't know if anyone else wants to chip in on that.
Just sorry for interrupting, but just it's always useful for comparison purposes. And actually, one thing that was very interesting is that compared to our setting, the reimbursement, the percentage of reimbursement was actually the same than yours. And for the initial trust, it was quite similar. Yours is 50%, ours is 60%, but we gave them a little bit less money. So it's not that different. So for comparability purposes, it's always useful.
I see.
Queremos recordarles que pueden llenar el formulario de evaluación del taller de investigación aplicada, el enlace que se encuentra en el chat de la sala de Zoom, por favor, ya que sus comentarios son importantes para la constante mejoría de estos talleres. Si no hay más preguntas, agradecemos al público por su participación y por sus comentarios, que sin duda enriquecen la investigación que se ha presentado. Les extendemos otra vez la invitación para que puedan responder el formulario de evaluación del sexto taller de investigación aplicada, ingresando al enlace que se ha compartido en el chat. A continuación, invitamos a la doctora Fernanda Vanderlei para dar las palabras de cierre del presente taller. Adelante, por favor, doctora.
Hi, everybody. It is really a pleasure to give the final words in this so interesting workshop that we have here. I want to thank Wannes for the presentation, all the authors for presenting this very interesting research, and for Joaquín Morales, who gave us so interesting and important remarks, theoretical, methodological, and it is showed us the importance of combining quantitative with qualitative research, evidence, the importance of context, the importance of a historical perspective, a public policy perspective, how different disciplines can enrich a reading, a story that we try to do with a scientific and in a very rigorous manner. So I would like to thank you all. Thanks for the public who are with us today, and for all the ISEC, Fundación Aro, Hans Seidel, who made this workshop possible. So thank you very much and have a nice day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joaquín, again, and we have to talk deeper on that.
Yeah, we have to talk, Rupert. Bye, Fernanda. Thank you very much. Thank you, Wannes. Thank you, Jean Paul,
you, everyone.
Orlando, Carlos.
Thank you, everyone.
Chao, Marique.
Agradecemos al público por su asistencia al sexto taller de investigación aplicada de la gestión 2023. Asimismo, reiteramos nuestro agradecimiento al doctor Joaquín Morales por sus valiosos comentarios y al investigador Wannes Slosse por presentarnos los resultados de su interesante investigación. También a todos los miembros de la Fundación ARU y del Instituto de Investigaciones Socio-Económicas por hacer este espacio posible, y de la Fundación Hans Seidel junto a la Universidad Católica Boliviana San Pablo por el constante apoyo a esta actividad académica. Con esto concluimos el sexto taller de investigación aplicada de la gestión 2023. Hasta luego y que tengan un excelente resto de jornada.
Bye, bye, Wannes. Boris is not
Bye,
here,
ciao.
so I get to have to put how to arrange a meeting with him too.
Perfect. We still have a call after this?
I don't think so. Boris is not here, so I guess.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
And
just
I
going to
have
call
to-
what I can.
And I have to go because I have a meeting with the one community, and we are